Greetings, adventurers. I'm Max, and I compose background music and themes for tabletop games. Whether you're delving into Dungeons & Dragons, unraveling mysteries in Call of Cthulhu, or battling in Warhammer 40k, let my music set the perfect tone for your games. As a fellow tabletop enthusiast, I create tracks that resonate with your game's diverse realms, available on all major streaming services. Plus, I also offer custom commissions to tailor the perfect soundtrack for your unique campaigns. Ready for immersive gaming sessions across all genres? Visit Coltrane Compositions on Patreon for access to over 150 songs, including looped versions, that will make your game unforgettable. That's Coltrin Compositions.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletop. And wow, great! We finally get to do inventory, everyone's favorite topic. But Rio is about to leap across the table and strangle me about it. That's right, table bottoms. It is inventory on Tabletop. Who do I got here with me?
Finally got him.
Yeah, we fucking got it. Who's here?
Why am I the villain of this one? Hi,
because you got mad at Nick before about inventory. I think I wasn't on that episode.
Yeah, this is
right. Because Nick's a liar who cheats.
Right, exactly. He's a cheating cheater who cheats.
You're not necessarily the villain in this, Rio. You're just
you're not the villain.
Justifiably
I'm the hero.
You're the hero. Yeah,
I'm the hero.
Well, yeah, because I think what was it? I feel like on the episode, like you guys were saying, like
I know exactly what it was.
It was something like you said, like Rio really should have had Franco here to back him up because he would have been on Rio's side.
Yeah.
It was Nick deciding. I'll just pretend I have money. I'm not going to keep track of this.
He had a pretty well thought out explanation, but before that, let's get to our two other co-hosts. It's me, Franco, and I wrote that intro, and I finally got Nick to say table bottoms, which is.
This has been 2 years in the making.
And I'm going to throw it over to our other co-host.
Hi, I'm Shade, and had I read the script, I might have cautioned against that one.
It's so funny because originally I think it was Franco or Rio, maybe a combination of the two, way back tried to get me to do a read that was like, shut up, table bottoms, a tabletop to speaking.
That was Franco. And
Is that okay that I wrote that?
I was like, that is... We were early in our tenure. I feel like we didn't have the relationship with the audience that we do now.
I don't know about that.
I still don't think that we do.
Hey, there we go.
Well, that's fine.
All right. I guess let's take it from the top.
No, obviously
no, this is fine.
All right. So today we are talking about inventory. Like Franco said earlier, it's a little bit of a return to a portion of a different topic that we had, which was sort of like inventory management and like tracking all that
there's
stuff.
There's going to be a whole series of episodes coming out that I wasn't on that I demanded to be on.
Or episodes where we actually just got so off track that we need to do it again. Yeah. So, Franco, since you're the one who sort of like wasn't here last time, what do you want to start with? Do you want to start broad and be like, what is inventory for?
What is inventory?
You know, like that kind of thing? Or do you want to get to like a specific granule that you had that you were upset about with the last episode?
No, I thought the last episode was great. What is inventory? It's all the stuff that you have. Answered that question. Sounds good.
We love having stuff.
Yeah.
That's great answer. How much stuff should any one person be expected to have / track?
If you
exactly
fit in a backpack, you shouldn't have it on your character. Your character's not walking around with a wardrobe of stuff.
I would argue though that 2,000 gold coins.
Yeah,
that's why you should invent a world that has a different currency than heavy coins. That's why we invented paper money.
That's true.
It's not why.
It's exactly why.
No. Is it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Heavy.
I think it was because I think it was because you didn't have to mint it
Right,
with
it
actual
comes from
gold,
bank
right?
notes.
It was like to disentangle.
I mean, it's the same. I mean, you know what? Rio's right, because you needed a place to store the shit. So it's a bank note that says, yes, we have that shit for you. And then it becomes paper currency. And yeah. So you know what? Roundabout, yes, Rio's right.
Rio wins. Yeah, so this is actually a really great point, though, Franco, about the 10 slots. So when we had done the last inventory game, we had played a couple of like NSR sort of systems that do limit your inventory to specific types, like Merkborg does, and Knave and all that kind of stuff limits your inventory in a certain way. I found that I really like that. I also found that I like a game where it's like if you have specific mechanically change, like an item that will change a mechanic, then you have to kind of track it, which could be anything from the weapon that you have and use, because that's going to be determinative of like what your damage is and everything and how you use it. But then things that you don't use or like doesn't have a mechanical effect, like maybe like, I don't know, a flashlight in Monster of the Week or something, that you don't really track it. It's just something that kind of comes and goes. And if it's something that the DM or GM says in the moment of like, that's actually kind of breaks things, like,
it's like something that you
probably don't have that.
Yeah,
I actually really like
reasonably have. But so I mean, I think slot base is quite different from what we did like when we were playing Monster of the Week, because we did have like stuff on our inventory, but sometimes we would also say like, would it be reasonable that I have this? And you'd usually be like, no, it wouldn't be. Because I think sometimes we would want like stuff that we kind of thought was like generic, but it's like, nah, it's kind of not. Like would you have this much rope on you? Do you have like string? Do you have like a, like maybe just flashlights and stuff would be something that's like, oh, I forgot to write a flashlight on my Monster Hunter sheet, like my Monster of the Week sheet. And it's like, yeah, sure, you brought a flashlight. Why wouldn't you? It's dark.
Yeah. But also like, I think that as long as people are playing to their characters and they're like, yeah, my character is known to be sort of somebody who is always hungry, so probably would have like a couple of granola bars
Scooby
on
snacks.
them. And in this moment, I would like to like take one of those out and bait the giant ostrich over to me or something like that. Like, I find that to be totally fine.
What game did we play where you had on your character what you had on your actual person? Whatever's in your bag.
Oh, that's
Merkborg.
Does it
really? Because Merkborg has like on the character sheet has, this is on your waist.
No,
but
he
hand.
means
this
you,
is on
the
your chest.
player. What? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's
that's
you awaken in a strange
candles,
place and 10 candles. Both of them do that.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
Then it's like, these are the things
like
that my character would have, because these are the random items that I currently have.
Although,
yeah, I think that's fun.
That's why I'm always strapped.
My caveat, I might be wrong about the you awaken in a strange place. I think that is an optional rule.
Okay.
That would be so scary, though, if you're like going around the table, be like, okay, yeah, like what did you start with today in your inventory? And someone's like, a Glock. And you're like, what the fuck?
I mean, I've got a knife, I've got an umbrella, I've got
like all the everyday carry Reddit subreddit would be like, they'd be like, oh man, we got to play this game. We're all about it. Yeah.
Let's optimize it for this TTRPG. But yeah, so like, where do you usually find the line is between this character can pull this thing out and this is not acceptable? And you were kind of starting to go into it, Franco, but I kind of want to hear from Shade and Rio in this kind of case. What are your parameters?
A bit of a tussle intellectually with a player because we were playing a campaign that was very heavily influenced by a vehicle, a covered wagon. And I was like, okay, your wagon breaks. You need to go to this other place to get a repair kit. And he goes, oh, we would have a repair kit for the wagon. I was like, no, you wouldn't. You didn't never buy one. We never said that was there. And it's like, would you have repair tools in like most people have some tools in their car to repair a car. But it's like, if you're playing a game.
And like a car comes with the donut, you know.
So it's like, do your characters have the ability to repair stuff? They bring that with them? If so, like, where is it kept? So a lot of that is like, here's this thing that the DM is like, oh, this is a fun challenge to overcome, but the players are like, no, this isn't a challenge because we would definitely have the tool to fix it immediately. In which I've always have gone to, no, I plan for this to be a challenge. You don't have shit. Which may or may not be fair, but it's what I do.
I think that's really interesting because I've been planning this like big open table campaign where like part of it will have to like does include like wilderness travel. And basically it's just kind of like, okay, how much do you need to like get to this other location? I think that in the game, and maybe what I would suggest to people is to like kind of like try to be like, hey, what do you think you would need to like arrive at this destination, and like what else do you think you would need to carry with you, because here's like a bunch of stuff that you might think to take with you, because like you don't go on like 100-mile hikes every day, and you don't have the experience of like actually going on an adventure. So like maybe you just give them like, here's a list of things that you might need for things that might come up that maybe your characters would think about because they have lived in this world, then they would expect this. Or even just like, okay, do you guys want to just spend the money to have brought that with you next time? Just mention it ahead of time.
Can I have a pitch? Tell me if you feel like this is a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah.
If your character's like, I have a pack, a kit.
Ooh, a gear pack thing. Yeah, gear packs. Gear packs are cool.
I was thinking about this too, having like an adventurer's pack.
And it's like, okay, you can have the thing you need 4 times because you have this pack. That we're not going to say what's in it. We're going to be able to use it this many times to solve.
That is a very cool solution. I have seen that before as well. Like you can have like burglars packs, explorers packs, archaeologist packs, like anything that is sort of related to a background has a pack for it. It takes up 4 or 5 slots or something like that. It's the most expensive thing you can buy, but anytime that you need to, it's sort of like quantum gear, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's another mechanic as well that comes from 5 Torches Deep that's called supply, where basically any sort of like, you have like a certain amount of like supply, and then you can spend that to use for like consumable resources like rations or torches or basically anything that you can use that can get used up. And then like, yeah.
I love this because it completely gets rid of the stuff that I hate, which is the minutia of keeping.
But once you use that gear pack slot, like it is that thing forever, and it always has been.
Yeah. I actually like in my mind, I would even sort of like use it up. Like you use the repair kit and it like during your time, to your point, Rio, of like, would they even know how to use this? It's like maybe it breaks during the time you use it, but you fix the thing. But like this gear kit is pretty interesting, mangled at this time. Or like it only has enough one extra wheel. Like Mac, friend of the pod, Mac Leslie, who is developing their own TTRPG game. I'm playtesting it with him right now, and he has what he calls boons that you can buy with your experience. Either you can do full upgrades for your character, or you can buy these kind of temporary boons that will help you in your current session. Basically between long rests it stays up, and one of these boons is called Chekhov's thing, which is that you just take it, and that during between this long rest and the next long rest, you can one time be like, I pull out the gun that I've always had in like under my jacket or whatever, and that's the Chekhov's gun at that point. That is the thing, you've used it, the boon is over, but it allows you to have exactly what you need once. Which
there's
I think
another
is just such a fun way
mechanic
to do
in
it.
some games called I Know a Guy. And it kind of works like that, where the players have one card to pull. It's like, we need a ride to the city. Oh, I know a guy who gets cars, so we can get a.
Yeah, or I know a guy who's like a taxi driver, something like that.
Yeah, so having like a pack that's like, I have this one-time use quick solve.
Yeah. Monster of the Week, I think, does all that really well. Where I would say that's an inventory light system. I mean, it does have very specific, like, this is what you start off with, this is what you have kind of things. But I know for my character, I had exactly two things that helped me with this. I was an expert, and I had preparedness. When you need something unusual or rare, roll your sharp. And on a 10, you have it right now. On a 7 to 9, you have it, but not here. It'll take some time to get it. On a miss, you know where it is, but it's somewhere real bad. And then I took from another playbook, I believe Divine, what I want
The
when I need
teleporting
it.
one?
You may summon forth something of use to you. A roll weird on a 10 to 12. You get something amazing teleported to
yes.
you on a 9 to 7.
Oh man.
Something useful on a 6 or less. Something not useful. So, those thematically worked for my character, but also just kind of, what it came down to a roll, and based on my character's essentially intelligence or connection with magic, one of the two, would they actually have access to this in some fashion? I like that. That's kind of nice. It adds a little bit of
Man.
variance to it.
Remember?
I do too, because all of those mechanics are designed
Yeah.
for partial successes, which I always think is it's just a good design mentality. And with a partial success, as a GM, if it's really going to screw up your game for someone to have this, but they roll decent, but not a full success, you could always be like, yes, you have like this flashlight. It comes down from the heavens.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Yeah.
any batteries in it, something like that. Like, you can always kind of fuck with them a little bit if you have those partial successes, which I think is a good way in a inventory light system to manage power levels of characters.
Such a hard game.
Um,
I don't think I could ever DM it, to be honest.
which
Just
game
'cause
is
you-
that? Monster of the
You
Week?
just have to
Monster of the
improvise
Week.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. You can't plan anything.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember when I tried to have you just be able to like manifest items as you needed them?
Yeah.
Pull them from different timelines? That was really complicated, and I didn't plan it out enough.
I think,
But it was kind of exactly like what we just.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
And
kind of, yeah.
I think the times that I utilized it, it worked for me. It created some interesting moments. I manifested a bottle of honey gel, the alcohol.
Oh, that was
Honey
really
melt.
cool. Yeah, it was like that
Honey
special
melt.
alcohol.
And it turns out that it was being something shady was going on. So me finding it kind of then pinned a crime on me.
Yeah, that was fun.
Which is, that was lots of fun. I think the system worked. We could have refined it, but you also were flexible enough with it where, yeah, that makes sense. And, you just kind of let us figure it out as we needed.
You know what the problem I think is with Rio, the system that you made for it, which I think was a very elegant solution to it, but it fell into the psychological trap that I find I get myself into video games quite a bit, where it's like, if you, let's say in Halo, you pick up a rocket launcher, you have 2 rockets, and that's like, I'm going to save these fucking rockets until I absolutely need them, which means then mentally, I'm not using the cool mechanic that you made.
I was very selecting, except for that alcohol moment of when I used it.
And I think, Shade, like, to your point about the alcohol incident, like, I think I would have had way more fun if I just used it more. Like, I would just be able to have more funny things happen, or like interesting kind of flexible ways through the story. But because of my hangups about resource expenditure, I was like,
that's always like a really hard thing too, because like I'm playing a Final Fantasy game right now, and it's like, oh, I found this really neat item. Let me never ever use it, because I might need it later.
Let's talk about this specifically for a little while too, because this is like key to inventory, I think, because for me, the things that should be in your inventory are things that interest the players and that the players want to have in there. However, if they forget about something, or they're holding on to a specific like scroll or whatever, but then it slowly like becomes less important to both the characters and the campaign because they've been holding on to it so long that it's basically just a debuff on their inventory. Like, like, how do you deal with that kind of stuff? Because that feels hard for me. I don't know how to deal with it.
I think the solution in Karen I find very elegant. Like, it's like there's only 10 slots, so you only have to think about 10 things really. And then there are like petty items that you can have that don't take up slots. And some of those can be like spells. But like, if you forget about a spell scroll, then it's like that's kind of on you. You should remember your spells.
Yeah.
It's like think about your spells; they're
Yeah.
very important. Depending on what kind of, I like to play with the with a certain hack that uses certain type of things. It's not important. But basically, when you have a full inventory, your HP goes to 0. Because you're I changed in my hack, I changed HP, and in the Mythic Bastion land, they changed HP to guard, which I think is more is a better use of
terminology
the term, because it's kind of like it kind of represents like you being on guard, like in
Yeah,
combat.
just real quick, could you define HP for us?
Yeah, HP in Cairn is hit protection. It is not hit points or health points. So specifically, it is everything that you're doing to protect yourself against getting hit. So it represents like dodges. It represents like you taking like glancing blows, you taking like bruises or whatever. Whereas in like something like 5e, HP can mean kind of anything. Like HP is very, very nebulous. I think it's also like there's something cool that you can do when you don't have HP, being when you have like a separation between grit points and flesh points, which is like a thing that was like kind of thought about like in some OSR circles and stuff, and circulated on some blogs, where it's like you have your hit points, which is like, glancing blows, dodging, etc., or whatever, fatigue, you're just like getting tired out. And then flesh points, which is like taking actual wounds. And then you can do stuff like, I lost a finger, I lost an eye. Like, how do you lose an eye or a limb or whatever in 5e? It's like there's very specific mechanics for certain monsters that will like, I think like you can get stuff chopped off in 5e, but it's like really under very specific circumstances. But sometimes, if you take a flesh hit, like there could be, I think it's also this in Cairn, because I made an alligator, and on strength damage you have to make a save or get your limb torn off. It's a death roll. And so stuff like that, where you're just kind of like you're using the inventory. Now the inventory is playing in a different way, because like you're not just, your inventory isn't just like the stuff that you're carrying. It's also in games like Cairn, which is classless, it also kind of makes you who you are, because like it takes up like, you have certain spells and you have like spell books and stuff, or you just have a ton of fucking weapons and armor and stuff and you're a fighter, or you have like all your holy symbols and stuff and you're a cleric or whatever. Or you have like a wolf cloak that turns you into a wolf and now you're a druid. And then and so like it's kind of playing with that, and then it's making your class up basically, but then you can do special things that take up fatigue slots in your inventory, and that's like filling up your inventory with like negative consequences. And so that can make you more tired. It can, affect how you play, but you can also, and again, once it's all full up, your HP goes to 0, so that you are less on guard when you're in a fight, because you're encumbered basically.
That makes sense.
So status conditions also go into your inventory slots?
I think they can, yeah. Like you can do that. I know Mouse Ritter does that.
That's a cool one. Like you, like so you're like have a broken bone or whatever. Like your rib got broken, and you're just like, I can't carry as much as I used to be able to.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm also carrying this wound around with me, and it's affecting my ability to do stuff.
I changed in my game, in my hack, I changed it from inventory to burden. So it's just it's more general.
I like that a lot. I was gonna say, if you hadn't already made that change, because burden makes a lot of good sense, you could call all the non-physical things that you're carrying your baggage.
Your baggage, that's really good. I like that a lot.
I love that. Yeah, the thing about inventory for me is that I just want to, whenever I play, I just want it to be an additive mechanic rather than a detracting mechanic. And I feel as though I
think in D&D it feels detractive.
Yeah, and like with that, you're tying it into character creation in like NSR stuff, which is interesting to me, because it's like this mechanic, like me building what I actually hold on to, is going to affect my battlefield and social role. It's going to affect like what we actually can do. Like if no one has rope, we can't, belay into this canyon or whatever. So I think that is interesting. I still like, for me, obviously I like more improvised equipment slots. But I'm also a player who will constantly fuck myself over. So I feel like GMs don't really mind as much. Like I was playing with Mac recently, and I had a negative tag on my character, but because in his system you have things called schemas, which is like memories that are that give your character both a bonus and a detracting thing. For example, my guy's afraid of falling, but he also in that memory was protecting somebody when he fell. So any skill challenge I have that is like me trying to protect someone, I can then use my schema to help reduce the difficulty of that. Whereas the negative tag on the other side would increase it. And I use those negative tags all the fucking time. I'm like, yeah, I have issues with authority, so I yell at this receptionist or whatever. And it becomes like a really
I'll
fun
never
way.
understand people with authority issues.
That was such a good. Okay, A+, Rio, you did it.
We love an aware guy.
Self-awareness is very fun.
And right after this break, we'll talk about some more awareness of an inventory system.
Do you like nerdy stuff? Of course you do. Want to see someone make that stuff, but smaller? Sculpting Minis, tabletop terrain, props, puppets, and tutorials, a crafting channel for all things nerdy. Join me over on YouTube at Niche Crafts, where I make stuff about stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of Tabletopped, where we discuss inventory. We kind of went on a very winding road in that first half, but let's get back to inventory
And
specifically.
we never meander off topic.
Not once.
I get so many emails and notes, handwritten in some cases, being like, you guys are just too on topic. So maybe we should explore that. But yeah, why don't we talk about, we've been talking about our favorite inventory management systems. Let's
talk about our least favorite.
Yeah, let's talk about our least favorite.
Dungeons and Dragons.
You know what?
And when I say Dungeons and Dragons, I mean all of Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
I mean from the beginning.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that
Go for it, Shade.
I think that really anything that requires you to hold on to items that affect, like, for me, honestly, I really like an improvised inventory system.
That's why I hated Breath of the Wild. Kingdom.
Is it because of the degrading of items?
Yeah, well, because you have like, oh, I need a sword. Well, let me go find 3 sticks and 3 rocks so I can make the sword once. But like in other games, like The Witcher or Horizon, it's like, oh, I can make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff you make persists.
Yeah.
So it's more worth the effort to.
Yeah.
Like I love a crafting system.
I mean, they still
I
break.
hate a degrading system.
They still break,
They
though.
break in The Witcher?
But in The Witcher, you're finding better gear so often that I never had anything break. But I also never finished it.
Yeah, but you also find like repair kits all the
That's
time
true.
and stuff. It's
Oh,
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can't repair anything in Breath of the Wild.
That's
break.
okay. Yeah, you're right. That is
Yeah.
that is the bad part about Breath of the Wild. There's no repair mechanic.
Yeah. The bad part about Tears of the Kingdom, of course, is that it's just Breath of the Wild again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
I'm still furious. I think the underground could have been cooler.
Sorry, I know we're meandering and way off topic, but
as soon as we start,
Once I remember, because I didn't know anything about the underground, and when I first went into it, I was like, "What? This is so cool!" And then like I went through the whole thing and was kind of like, "Oh, there wasn't really much down there."
No.
Is crafting something we should talk about in this inventory set, or should we save crafting for?
I think it's kind of kind,
I
right?
think it's relevant, but I do want to blast
5e
encumbrance
encumbrance.
Yeah, that's
because we don't really use encumbrance in our games, in our 5e games, and I think part of what gets me about Dungeons and Dragons is, and because of like how we kind of don't use encumbrance typically, which is fine to use it and we can turn it on or whatever, and then it calculates it for you on D&D Beyond, which is nice or whatever, but it's just kind of like, why like the encumbrance limit is so high, like you can carry a lot of stuff, and it's kind of like, how are you carrying that stuff? Is that important? Not really. And then I often forget what I have, and so sometimes I'll be looking through my pack and I'll be like, oh cool, I do have this thing, or like, do I have this really specific thing that I might need? It's like, no, I did not think to pick that up, or it didn't come with my original pack. Because we're not going to the store and like buying a bunch of ball bearings every once in a while.
I also really want to talk about that too, because the way that inventory functions specifically in D&D for me is that if I'm waiting for my turn and I have like something in my mind, I go to my inventory and I just check through to be like, what other creative possibilities are there for me to approach this situation? Is this inventory inspiring anything in me that I can like do something weird? For example, I've never used a lantern to be like, I pull out my lantern, light it, and we enter a cave. I always use a lantern to be like, I light it and smash it on a monster to set it on fire. Like that is sort of like the thing. Whereas you could just have alchemist fire. You know what I mean? But that feels less cool to me. It feels less creative and inspiring.
I don't think I've ever used a light source in D&D.
Yeah, because of dark vision and all that.
Everyone dark vision.
I don't think anybody's ever thought. I make my characters in my game use lanterns because they have one human.
Yeah. I've definitely
I've always just assumed there's a light source somewhere.
Yeah.
Unless the challenge needed darkness, because I'm like, why put another tracking thing into this game?
Yeah.
Who can see what?
Yeah. No, I think I definitely agree with you on all these points. For me, 5e or any D&D system is about how much do you want to buy into this thing. And I think that it's all like it's there because there are different mindsets of play that are foreign to me. Like, there's all that encumbrance stuff, blah, 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 because there are players and there are groups, and this is all valid, but it's just very different from how I think about the game. Who are like, okay, cool. I want to strip all of the armor off the bandits that we just, played against. And I want to Skyrim this and I want to sell that all and I want to get rich that way. That's where that encumbrance comes in. And it's a nice kind of, what's the word that I want? Just a way to gamify this, where it's just like, okay, cool. We're not going to think too hard on how you're carrying 12 different cuirasses. We're not going to think about how you're carrying 13 swords. You have the strength to do it. It's done. Because we have to abstract this at some level.
Yeah.
But when
that's why, like, for that specifically, I'm just like, you'll get the gold later.
Correct. Yeah.
Here's how much that is worth. When you get back to it, just add it here. And don't keep track of how many swords, how many pieces of armor.
Yeah.
Right.
No one wants to do that.
But, right.
I think it's I think though that I think it's just like if you shift focuses in the game, everything can kind of shift along with it, and that type of thing becomes less of a burden.
Right.
So like if you have like, if you're like, I'm gonna turn down the thermometer on this one and I'm gonna bring up the other one, then I think you can have systems where like it doesn't feel as much of a burden to be like, oh, okay, how many slots of inventory or how much encumbrance can you carry, or how many bags or how many donkeys with wagons did you bring in order to fucking strip this whole place for parts or whatever? Like, tell me, like, how did you do it? Or I think even like you were saying, Nick, like with like the more sort of fiction forward ones where you're just narrative and you're loosey goosey, it's like, how are you doing that? How did you do that? And like, isn't that a more interesting challenge than just being like, okay, I click my mouse over this inventory and click it a bunch of times and now it's filled up in my slots and I'll get the money for it later.
Part of it,
like, it's just different modes of play, right? And I think it feels more video gamey for me for doing it the other way that you guys were mentioning before.
I would say, and I'm sorry, Nick, but in my mind, whenever I've played and whenever I've played and whenever I've led a game, that's not the inventory, because frankly, if you just killed a bunch of bandits and you have the time to strip them down and take all their shit, then there isn't enough happening in the game.
Yeah.
That should not be a thing that's like, all right, we did this thing and now we're going to take 30 minutes to no, you just killed a bunch of people.
So you put that time pressure on them.
Yeah,
he's like, sorry, you're going to do what? All right.
Right. There need to be other,
this happens.
There
now.
Need to be other
consequences happen.
Even it's not just pressures. There also need to be, why is that a thing that you want to do? Because that should be a pittance to the bigger prize.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, and you could
that's
and you
how
could
I look
always
at it.
just say, like, if you wanted to do in narrative, be like, as a quest giver, if you're sending them to a dungeon or whatever, say, hey, also, when you come back, just leave someone in front of like the dungeon entrance so that we can come, make sure it's safe, and then we'll clear it out for you and give you like a specific amount for the amount that's in there. You know, like it could be something that completely abstracts the player completely out of it too, and it's just like something you report to the Adventurers Guild, and then they go send their cleaners to go clean up the dungeon.
Your party has a specific flag, and you just plant it at the entrance of the dungeons. And
That
that could be
this
fun.
is our loot.
There's a CRPG, Solesta, I think it is. It's based pretty faithfully to 5e, and it's a computer RPG. And they literally have a group that is dedicated to doing that, where you meet an NPC at some point early in the tutorial kind of thing. They're like, yeah, we're a guild, and we come and we collect the shit that you leave behind, and you'll get a cut of that.
Yeah.
So,
and like maybe they find a really big gem and they're like,
Yeah.
but I don't want a portion, I want the whole damn thing, and they can, you know, take it, whatever, it's fine.
Sure.
The Dungeon Porters Union. I'm gonna put this in my game.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Here's one that you might like. I was reading this in a book one time, but like adventurers would go out and get loot, but the city would tax it when they came back in. So you had to have the actual like liquid funds to come back with your loot to pay the taxes. So it's like, we need a sponsor.
That's fun.
You can't just adventure.
Yeah, like
you need
a
money
merchant
to go
guild
adventuring.
sponsors you to go into the dungeon and get all the stuff. I love that. But like also one thing that I think that I might actually do to try it out in like the next time I run either a one shot or a whole campaign or whatever, is that I really like the idea of having buckets of items. And you guys were kind of, Rio and Franco, you guys were kind of talking about this with like the charges on a certain type of pack or whatever. But I kind of like to say like, okay, these are the genre of items. These are some examples of what are in each category. How much do you want to spend into each category? And then you can like use that throughout the adventure. For example, you could say like, I only put maybe like the different tiers are 50 gold, 100 gold, 200 gold. And if you have 200 gold, you basically have everything in this tier. You know what I mean? So maybe this is all like the like dungeon gear, like caltrops or pythons or whatever. And you could say, okay, I don't really know what's going to be in this dungeon. I'm going to put 200 gold into this category. So when we need something, we basically have what we need because we spent a bunch of money on the front side. I kind of like that idea, because then it also takes the pressure off of players to be like, what exactly do I need in this kind of unknown situation I'm entering? And going back to your point, I think it was Shade, where you're saying like, we're not, or maybe it was Franco, I don't remember, where one of you were saying like, the players are not adventurers. They don't really know what would be needed on this journey or whatever. So in game, the characters probably have a little bit more of that knowledge. So maybe you just like give them these ways to invest their money so that then they can have a thing. And you could still say later, like as a GM, you could still like plan to kind of get them cold by saying like they only spent 50 GP into wagon repair materials. Like maybe this wagon's going to get fucked up quite a bit during this journey and they're going to have to figure this out. You know, like you can still pull like a shortage on your players, but I feel like that gives the players more agency to at least say like, this is where I want to invest, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I just wanted to know, it's as far as that bucket idea in my mind, this is why, again, I engage with it a little differently, but in 5e, there are 2 buckets that matter, or 3 technically, but
you love adding that extra. You say 2 and then go to 3 every goddamn time.
Every single time.
And he's about to forget the third one.
I'm not gonna this time. Wait, what was it? No, it's your fucking attunement slots, your actual equipped gear.
Started with the third one first.
No, I didn't. And the gold.
Yeah.
Those are
gold.
Those are the 3 buckets. Yeah. And
gold.
Anything else, I don't fucking care. We can talk about it. We can figure out why you have it.
What was the middle one again?
That was your equipped gear.
Equipped gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Non-magical,
gear,
because the attunements are the
slots.
other stuff,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 buckets that actually matter in 5e. Everything else is fucking icing and cake, and
It's all narrative, right? Because
It's all
the
narrative.
things that you
I don't
just
think
talked
it's-
about, that is all
I don't think
stuff
it's-
that just affects the math of the game. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's icing and cake. I think it's the junk drawer you forget about.
correct. Well, yeah, but I mean that's the thing is like it should be loosey goosey narrative. That's what I mean by icing and cake. Like
Uh-huh.
I think that it should only matter to an extent. I will say it gets kind of difficult with things like health potions. Just fucking don't give health potions to people unless you have all fighter groups and they don't have any other healing source. Even if you have all fighters or all rogues, still don't do it. They've got other ways to figure it out. Like,
Wow, I didn't know you were anti-healing potion.
I mean, I'm not, but like if that's a problem that you have, you're worried about, if somehow that healing potion is throwing your mechanic off, and your player's like, oh well, I'm going to use a healing potion at this point, because at some point if they start to use a healing potion, especially as we move into this new 1D&D where it's going to be a bonus action to do it, and it's every single turn they're using a healing potion, then you do need to maybe have a conversation about math and inventory.
Yeah.
But
this is the thing, is like, why not just make the healer character why don't you make healing feel better for them so that you don't need to have all of these potions? Anyway, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Like make the healer class more fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that people are like, no, you don't need to buy all these potions. I'm a fucking cleric or whatever.
I really like
I
playing
was to say
support.
clerics are really cool.
Yeah, clerics are fun.
Yeah, support roles are really fun. I don't know.
I
don't know. Maybe that's just you, Nick.
This is just my experience playing Natalia at the end of Argot, because I felt like a lot of my support abilities, maybe it was just the class, but a lot of my support abilities were like, I cast a spell on you and my turn is done. I move, I throw this ward up for somebody else doing the thing, and my turn is done, which is a bad way to run a support, because you want like support class people to feel like I am active in this rather than just allowing other people to do stuff. At least in my opinion. But that is,
I don't know.
I
I think
don't
that seems
understand
active
your
to me.
opinion.
Yeah, I
because
don't get it either.
I think you're viewing active as dealing damage.
Because the feeling I guess I make, maybe this is a clearer way, is that I didn't have a whole lot of options in the actual fight because I was just trying to support other people's decisions. So I wasn't actually making a lot of decisions other than who do I buff, you know what I mean? Which is okay, but like in World of Warcraft or some video games, it feels a lot more gamey and a lot more like active because you're trying to track everybody at once. But D&D kind of doesn't encourage you to do that. Like, you're not really supposed to have somebody else's character sheet up and being like, oh, they just went under 50%. Got to figure this out. Like, that's not really how the game is supposed to work. So it feels a little bit more passive. Like, I guess I'm going to use haste on you so that you can do this awesome 8-attack whirlwind strike that kills the dragon. Like, that's cool that I helped, but like, it's not as cool as hitting something for a crazy amount of damage and rolling a bunch of dice, because you don't even roll dice when you're supporting sometimes. Like, unless you're healing, you're not actively doing a lot. You're just bestowing, which I just think is what you're saying passive.
Is in your inventory of player character types. Yeah, you don't want to include that in your inventory.
Yeah, I guess so. It's more of a narrative thing, I guess. Any final thoughts we have on inventories? I think that we have come to a place of agreement that we did not get to last time. So it's good, Franco, that you're here. But any other final comments, things to start a fight?
Let's talk about cash. I mean, I guess like money.
Yeah, this is where we got the fight last time. Let's do it.
Yeah. I will say personally, I feel like, oh boy, this sucks, but money should be tied to your, like, one of the things that you identify in 5e, for example, is your lifestyle. And you can choose like squalid all the way up to
like rich
aristocrat or something. I don't remember what it is. And
aristocrats.
Yeah.
Aristocrats.
I think that depending on what level you are, that should be the determining factor for money. Or if there's something that maybe you did, it should be a determining factor. I prefer money because fucking tell me a story um where money actually matters, and it's only ever actually matters if it's a story about poverty.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all the stories are just people who magically can, these friends can magically live in New York
Yeah.
City in the best fucking apartments.
Yeah.
These people.
Except when it matters.
So like
money only matters in certain TV shows when it matters.
Yeah,
correct.
It only matters when it matters.
And here's the
when they
thing,
need
and
it
like
to.
I'm just gonna put my position out there. We can tussle about it, but like for me, what I said last time was that I don't really keep track of gold because I'm just like because I never use it to buy anything worthwhile anyway, like mechanically changing stuff. I say like, oh yeah, I buy like I have this lantern. It's been in my inventory. But again, that's because I come from like a narrative inventory preference, I think, where I'm not going to do anything like I pull out a shotgun because that's like, where did you have the shotgun?
Where the fuck did you buy a shotgun?
in D&D?
They're not. Well, no,
Who
but like,
invented gunpowder for you?
yeah, but like it's
this
like
is a Dark
like
Sun
shotgun.
campaign.
A shotgun, like it's not cheap.
Yeah. And
you
it's
know?
so like that doesn't become a thing. I will say I do
No, I'm saying that is a thing. I'm saying no.
Oh,
I think like
sorry,
if,
say this
like
again.
if I don't think buying a shotgun or a sword or an axe or whatever, I don't think that's nothing.
Mm-hmm. And that's
Like
what I was
maybe,
saying
like-
is like if I said I pull out a shotgun, that's unreasonable. But if I
okay,
pull
I
out
see.
a python, maybe not so unreasonable. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: the only way that I really like interacting with gold at all, like as a mechanic, Rio was in your campaign where
Because I didn't use
it was Devin and I with you, but then it totally fucked up your campaign. But I thought it was the centerpiece of the campaign. We had a tithe essentially that we had to pay each month. Yeah, and it was like, how on earth are we going to get enough money to pay our tithe? And that was the centerpiece of the campaign, even if it was unintentional, because we were like, we got to get this amount of gold.
Yeah, because I think like originally, right, like D&D was very focused on gold because that's how you level up, gold for XP.
Yeah.
And I think like I think it is kind of, I think you can make D&D about poverty.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like,
So I'm gonna say my intake is like Jade had something interesting that I disagreed with, but I want to think about it more. Is that money in a story is never really important until it is, but in games, and money is very important because that's how you get new gear and you level up, and it involves your inventory. So like money is important in games, but not for stories. So it's a really hard balance, and I really need to think about how you would make the story more interesting without money.
That's
But
interesting.
still keep the mechanic of leveling up your gear and getting stuff that's like magic.
I wonder because so for example, Waterdeep Rio, Valen historically didn't really have money, but that didn't really come up as much because he either had friends who had money or he had he was growing in other different other ways. Like he was
growing money.
But like his improvement came from leveling up or finding things or stealing things or
Well, that was because we chose to not have money for Valen as a story element. So that was a story decision, not a gaming mechanical decision. And because like the other stuff I never needed gear because we didn't really deal with that.
Yeah.
And Franco, in Monster of the Week, you and Ivy, or Jackie's character Ivy, went to get a sword silvered, and when you got the price tag, you guys were sort of like, shit, I don't think that I would just have $2,000 laying around. I'm a college student. You're a ghost. So then it became like, how are
classic pairing?
It's like, how are we going to find this $2,000 within like 4 hours so that we can go get this sword silvered? And that became like a fun little thing. So I think that money often becomes more interesting to me as a driver of story rather than a mechanic for rewards. I think that we have the mechanic of rewards, which is XP. And I personally don't like spending money on items or whatever, because then it becomes a whole thing of like, is this item around? All that kind of stuff. It just don't like it.
What if you don't have XP?
If you don't have XP, like in an NSR game?
Yeah. What if there's like a levelless game?
I think that's a great question. I don't know. I kind of feel like I feel like in those games you're usually living in a world in which like archaeotech is the most powerful thing in the world. Like the things you find in the dungeon are the magic items. They're the scrolls or whatever that really are going to make a difference for you. And then everything else is more utility, like finding donkey drawn carriages. Like that's more utility than anything else. So I don't know. I haven't really played enough NSR to really have a full feeling on it, but I kind of feel like I would feel the same way in that my items that I really care about are going to come from the dungeon and not come from me buying them anyway. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And even you were talking about like having the packs with charges that do different things. Like I think that's great. And I would have no problem spending money on that. But I would just be like, it would essentially be me saying like, here, take this kind of empty of meaning item, 1,000 gold coins, and give me this ability to say narratively that I have whatever I want 4 times. I think that that's really, really good. So I don't know. I like it. I like that kind of stuff more as level up mechanics anyway. I think that's more fun that way.
What, items or?
Yeah, like spend this amount of your XP and you locate like a very specific item that you've been looking for and you buy it. Like that, that's fun for me.
Yeah, because I mean, you can also spend money on like magical research, or you can spend money on like training or whatever, and then you can level up that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I want to train to be able to do this like attack.
Yeah.
Or to do, you know, these combat maneuvers, or I'm gonna pay this amount of gold to, you know, get some alchemists to research a potion for me so that I can learn the formula, or research a spell or whatever, that type of thing.
Yeah. But for me, that is like, that should be just covered, because then you're using gold as XP, which is the original reason why everyone liked gold in the original D&D. And I think that is probably the best way to use gold as this other mechanical thing. But yeah, I don't know.
And I think it's also because art imitates life, and in real life,
money
the
is
more
everything.
money you have, the more levels you are perceived as having.
Yeah. It's like, I think, and that's also a really interesting point around money in games too, is like, do your players really want to have to deal with the burden of finances in the game that they play once a week? I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe sometimes.
What if I did it in a really abstract way?
All right, sell us on it.
You would just per downtime cycle that happens in between sessions, you would just have to pay a certain amount, or say that you did an odd job to fund yourself during that time, and then depending on the lifestyle, you pay that amount of money. So like 1 silver for squalid, you know, 20 for like comfortable, and like 100 for extravagant, like that type of thing. And then you're just like, that's what you, and then you get a certain benefit if you're like, oh, I want to schmooze with rich people during this time. It's like, you're gonna have to spend 100 silver to be able to be let into the party if, you know, don't want to dress like, you know,
those
in rags and stuff.
I like it. It is a mix of background stuff from 5e and also downtime activities from Xanathar and the DMG.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, but for me too, it's like, I literally said this last night to a friend as we were walking home from Davis, and I was like, so the good thing about going to Dragon Pizza right now, and this is me talking in this moment, was that it was full of college kids. And as I was walking out, I was like, I forgot that you can have a very fulfilled social life with lots of stuff that you do and places you go without a ton of money. You know what I mean? Like college kids do it, and they have very vibrant social lives and all that kind of stuff. Not saying that you don't need to have some money. Obviously, they're going to college. They have more money than most probably. But I would say that like it is something that I had kind of forgotten as I had been so in the workforce for so long, where like money equals like freedom to do stuff. You actually don't need money to do a lot of stuff. It's just like Rio said earlier, it's just kind of the perception of how you're doing. And also it's nice. It makes things easier. It saves you time. So I think that maybe if you take money in a game and say like, you can abstract this tasks that you're going to do with money, but then money kind of becomes like a magical item where you're like, maybe it's a coin purse with 2,000 gold. That is an item slot, and you can use that to bribe people. These are the rates, something like that. Like, I love that. That's cool.
Sounds great.
Yep.
I guess we solved inventory.
We did it.
There it is.
Once
we
again,
did it.
is there any problem we can't solve? If you have a problem that you would like us to solve, send us a message. You can go to tabletoppod.com, go to the contact form, write us. We will answer it on air. Also, we do have a Patreon, and we have it set for free members to get stuff as well. So head on over to patreon.com/tabletop, either as a paid or as a free member, and join the community over there. We'd love to see you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
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 Hey everyone, it's me, Nick, from the Tabletop Podcast. When I'm not hosting, I'm thinking about ways to create a better podcast for you guys, and I think I landed on something pretty fun. In fact, if you go to our Patreon at patreon.com/tabletop and join for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to a new episode a month that we're going to start putting out. In fact, we're going to be calling this one Wild Magic, I think, in that we're going to talk about anything and everything that interests us, not just TTRPGs, though there will be a lot of that. It is truly unhinged, and if you are a fan of the podcast and all of the hosts, you're definitely going to want to be on it. We're thinking of dropping these at the end of each month, so join our Patreon today. That is patreon.com/tabletop. Oh, and there's going to be so much more coming out in the new year there, so don't miss it. Sign up today.